Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So good evening, everyone, and namaste. We are studying the life of Holy Mother, and we're reading about her motherhood of everything in the universe, including people who would otherwise be thought of as deranged. So if I'm not mistaken, we should start here. Holy Mother could see inside human beings. Wait a minute. Holy Mother could see inside human beings and knew their potential. Gyan, later Swami Gyanananda, was a daredevil vagabond boy of East Bengal who came to Calcutta. He knew Atmananda. He knew, what is that name? Arupananda. He knew Arupananda, and through him went to bow down to Mother in Udbodhan house. After some months, he went to Jairambati and met her there. She received this youth and asked him to stay at her place. Gyan recalled, one afternoon the mother asked me, Gyan, do you go to bathe in the Amadar River? Yes, I do, I replied. The mother then said, tomorrow you go a little early in the morning for your bath. There is a yellow flowering tree on the bank of the river. Collect a basket of flowers from that tree for the master's worship. Saying, all right, mother, I went back to my room with the basket. The next morning, when I went to the mother with the flowers, she sat for worship in front of the master's picture. She signaled to me to sit on the asana next to her. I sat there quietly. After finishing her worship, she asked me to come a little closer, and she gave me a mantra and a few spiritual instructions. Pointing to the master's picture, she said, bow down to him. As I was obstinate by nature, I argued, why should I bow down to him? I don't know him. The mother looked at me and commanded sternly, I say bow down to him. You don't know him? He is all in all. He is the teacher of the universe, the guru of all beings. Again, I protested. How can he be my guru? You have given me the mantra, so you're my guru. Interrupting me, the mother said, I am no one's guru. I am the mother of all. He is the only guru. Again, I said, how can you be my mother? My mother is at home and she is still alive. I am that mother, she said. Look at me closely. See whether Look at me closely. See whether I am that mother of yours or not. Stupefied, I saw that my biological mother was seated in front of me. My body was thrilled with awe. I fell at her feet, saying, Mother, Mother. All my arguments ceased, and I surrendered at her feet forever. My body was thrilled with awe. I fell at her feet, saying, Mother, Mother. All my arguments ceased, and I surrendered at her feet forever. She gave me this knowledge that she was not only the mantra guru, she was my own mother, the mother of all beings, and the mother of the universe. She gave me this knowledge that she was not only the mantra guru, she was my own mother, the mother of all beings, and the mother of the universe. So before we go on, are there any comments about what's been read? About what Gyan, Swami, later Swami Gyanananda?
So, Brother Shankaram, Holy Mother had this kind of powers which Ramakrishna had, that he could look into somebody and he would read completely his, not only his life, but in the past history also, past lives. So did she have the same thing?
Yes, indeed. This is the thing for us to understand, Sham, and it's so hard for us to understand because it's counterintuitive for us. They are not two beings. They are one being in two forms. So when the master performed the Shodashi Puja and incorporated, she already was that, but now they actually, if you recall the story, he did the puja, he conferred on her all that he had achieved in his 12-year sadhana. So she didn't have to do it. She had some sadhana of her own under his direction, but nothing like what he did. The great inconceivable penances that he underwent. But in that moment, they experienced their unity. And both of them said, ever afterwards, we are not two. We are one being in two forms. So thank you for that, Sham. You're absolutely right. Mother did have the same capabilities that Sri Ramakrishna had. Look at what she did for this boy. She said, look at me closely. Is this your mother? And there sat the boy's birth mother. The mother had transformed herself in that moment into his birth mother. I was thrilled with awe, he said. I imagine he was. Wouldn't any of us be? So yes, mother had those capacities, those capabilities, just exactly as Sri Ramakrishna had them. But she always, in her speaking, she always deferred to the master. Anyone else have anything to say? That was wonderful, Sham. Thank you.
I bet, Brother Shankara, the vagabond nature, daredevil nature has gone through the window right away. And when he saw his mother, right through the window, it disappeared. I'm glad the transformation happened. Quick transformation.
Well, mother had that capability.
Exactly.
You're right.
It's a wow moment. It's stunning.
We note that he was arguing with her before.
I know.
What a cheeky boy. But I mean, that's from our perspective.
Exactly.
From his perspective, he was doing exactly the right thing. He was being completely sincere and unhypocritical.
Very.
What are you talking about?
Thank you.
And so you're absolutely right, Haima. When Mother did this, when she showed him the truth of what she said, she showed him the truth of what she was saying. So how is this instructive to us? Mother says, when you are in distress, remember you have a mother. When you are in distress, remember you have a mother. Anything else from anyone? Oh, and Bart, I will reply to your email.
Oh, hello. I didn't know if you got that or not.
Yes,
thank
I
you.
did indeed.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Okay. Mother of all. Mother of all. One day in Jairambati, Nalini saw the mother clearing away a devotee's dirty plate. She remarked, "My goodness, Aunt, you are clearing away the defiled food of people of all castes." She was being the caste conscious, caged person, caged in these thoughts and these ideas. And you are clearing away the defiled food of people of all castes. The mother calmly replied, "People of all castes are my children." Her love united the high and low, the rich and poor, regardless of caste. And this is always what is said by these saviors who come. When Lord Jesus Christ was asked, "Why do you spend so much time with the publicans and the sinners?" Publicans were tax collectors and other officials of the Roman/Jewish government of Israel at the time. Christ's reply was, "They are the ones who need me." So he was recognizing them as his children. So he was, in the estimation of the questioner, he was defiling himself by mixing with these people in their bars and taverns and wherever else he met with them. Swami Vishweshwarananda recalled, one day at Jairambati, after my meal, I was about to carry away my dirty plate, but the mother took my hand and stopped me. She then took the plate herself. She then took the plate herself. I said, "Why should you do this, mother? I can wash it." The mother replied, "How little I am doing for you. A child, as you know, soils the lap of the mother and shows its temper tantrums, but the mother calmly goes about her duty. You are highly cherished, even by the gods. Once in Udboden house, a woman came to see the mother with her baby daughter. The baby lay down next to the mother on her blanket and soiled it, embarrassed the baby's mother, took the blanket and wanted to wash it. But the mother took the blanket from her and washed it herself. When the baby's mother objected, the mother said, "Why should I not wash it? Is she not my own?" Meaning the child, the baby. Is she not my own? These are such sweet instructions for us, for how to see the other people in the world. We too are the divine presence, and others, are they not our own? Gradually, the number of devotees began to increase, and sometimes they came to Udboden house at odd hours. They would unburden their problems to the mother. Oh, listen up. This is our right and our privilege and our grace as well. Odd hours. They would unburden their problems to the mother, and she would guide them. She had very little rest. Observing her inconvenience, one day Golapma lovingly reproached her. "Mother, what is the matter with you? You are too lenient. You extend your feet to whomever approaches and calls you mother." The mother replied, "What can I do, Golap? As a mother, I cannot withhold myself if someone seeks my help." One day, Golapma lovingly reproached her. "Mother, what is the matter with you? You are too lenient. You extend your feet to whoever approaches and calls you mother." The mother replied, "What can I do, Golap? As a mother, I cannot withhold myself if someone seeks my help." Let those who have ears to hear. Although the mother was a divine being, she acted exactly like a human mother. She could not utter the monastic names of the masters and her disciples. She could not utter the monastic names of the masters and her disciples. Rather, she would call them by their pre-monastic names: Naren, Rakal, Jogin, Sharat, Baburam, Krishnalal, Rashbahari, and so on. When she was asked why, she replied, "You see, I am a mother. It hurts me to call them by their monastic names." Can anyone tell me why that would be so? Anyone have a speculation as to why their monastic names?
Because she probably thought they are still the children, not grown up into the uh, Swami-hood. Because Swami means you are mature, but she probably thought that they are still like little children.
Thank you, Sham. Yes, this is it. When you take sannyas, you leave that child being that was the mother's, that came into the world as the mother's child. You leave that behind. As a matter of fact, you burn it in a fire. So she did not want to recognize as you say, they're mature. They were still her children. This extended even to Narendra, Swami Vivekananda. She never called him Vivekananda. She called him Naren. And he responded in kind. He called her mother in the most profound sense. You see, I am a mother. It hurts me to call them by their monastic names. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara, even as parents, no matter how big position our children hold, they are still our sons and daughters. They are like children to us. As
Yes,
a mother and father, we all look at them. We don't look at he can be a senator, he can be a president, governor, but still he is our child. Mother is like that. She looks at them as children, just as any parent should do, needs to do. That's what we always do too, right?
Yes,
Thank
I fully empathize with and understand what you said, dear.
It's also like more like, I mean, that's what I think is that it's more like formal and informal, When you know someone, you're not going to call them Swami. Like my friends who are monks, I just call them by name, their name, like Parag Maharaj. I don't call him or Uday Maharaj, who is Mantrananda now. Or even Swami Yogatmananda, I call him Rajiv Maharaj because I know him for last 30 years. So I just, so I think it's more like closeness which you form. But I mean, it's like some Ananda, and definitely not mother when she had seen all these boys being 15 and 16 years old.
Yes.
It's more like, yeah, it's more like informal way.
Heart to heart, familiar, as you said, heart to heart.
It makes us closer to children when we call them with their original first names, like a child. It just makes us so much closer, heart to heart connection.
Yes.
Right, Brother? Thank you.
I think you're right. It is true a son may be a president or a judge or a monk, but to the mother he remains a son. One day, Vishweshwarananda asked, Mother, how do you look upon us? I look upon all of you as Narayana, Mother replied. I look upon all of you as Narayana, the human form, as her children in human form. Holy Mother replied. The Swami said, Mother, we are your sons. If you consider us to be Narayana, you can no longer think of us as your sons. The mother calmly replied. I look upon you as Narayana as well as my sons. This indicates how her divine and human aspects merged in her life. What is that name, Haima, in 1918?
Oh, that's Suhasini.
Oh, okay, thank you, dear.
Suhasini.
In 1918, Suhasini went to see Holy Mother at Udbodhan House with her friend Sarala, later Bharatiprana. She lived in Bug Bazar, so she visited the mother quite often with her little daughter, Shanti. One day, Suhasini went to Udbodhan went to Udbodhan house without Shanti because the little girl was restless and would disturb others. When the mother heard this, she said, "Well, never feel that she disturbs me. Moreover, it is the nature of small children to be a little naughty. Look at Radu, how much she disturbs me. Her mother is mad. I have to face all her problems and demands. Her demands are endless, and some are meaningless. There is a Bengali saying, I shall make the wet sugar dry and the dry sugar wet, and then eat it." This is the kind of demand that Radu has. In other words, I'll make the wet sugar dry and I'll make the dry sugar wet and then eat it. Doesn't mean a thing. It's just you're going to eat the sugar. It is this kind of demand that Radu has. If her demands are not fulfilled, she will shout and cry. I cannot tell you how many slaps and blows I have received from Radu. Radu's ill treatment of me greatly upsets my mother. Sometimes she would grumble and say, "You do not have a child of your own. I don't understand how you maintain your smiling face while taking on the troubles of others." And here comes the answer. I would then console my mother with some pleasing words. Then Holy Mother kept quiet. She didn't have to justify herself. She didn't have to say because, or in order to. She simply was that mother. Another woman devotee said with a smile, "Mother, if Grandma were alive today, she might have been irritated. Now so many men and women are calling you mother, mother, and disturbing you. Though we are not born from your womb, that does not mean we are not your children." Immediately the mother stood up and said firmly, "What did you say? That you were not born from my womb? Then from whose womb were you born? Are you not my children? Then whose children are you? Is there any mother other than me? I exist in all women and in all mothers. Those who come to me from any place are all my children. Know it for sure and certain. Those who would come to me calling me mother, they are all my children. My mother understood this toward the end of her life when she saw Naren, Rakal, Sharat, Sarada, Jogin, Niranjan, Girish, and Nivedita. My mother was so happy when she heard them calling me mother. She used to say, "Ah, finally Mother Durga has fulfilled my wish. My Sarada has now so many children. When they call me Grandma, my heart is satisfied. I can't express my joy when they ask me for something to eat or when they talk and tell me their stories. My mother gave them puffed rice and sweet balls, and they ate with great relish. She watched them and laughed. At that time, I saw great joy and satisfaction on her face. Then there were not too many women devotees, and very few would go to Jairambati. By the time women devotees began to visit Jairambati, my mother had passed away, but she left with great joy, seeing me as mother. Any comments or questions from anyone?
So you said that her own mother, if I'm just hearing this correctly, saw Holy Mother.
Speak up a little bit, Aaron, would you please? I'm not hearing you.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I was far away from the computer. So you're saying that the mother of Holy Mother saw Holy Mother as the holy being, like at her during the time
At the end of her life, yes, she began to see her that way. That's what she just related to us. Yes.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swayam.
Did Holy Mother ever lose her patience with Radhu or her mother?
Oh, yes. There were a couple of times when they just abused her too much. Radhu, especially, threw vegetables at her, really hurt her back one time. And she lost her temper, but she never punished them. She never used her Mother of the Universe powers to. As a matter of fact, Radhu, after Mother passed away, Mother used her power as Mother of the Universe to help clear up Radhu's mind. I don't think her mother, Radhu's mother, ever came right, so to speak. But Radhu actually did improve a great deal after Mother left the body, and Radhu gave the credit for that to Mother. But yes, she lost her temper with them. There were very few instances in which Mother lost her temper, but she could be pushed too far.
Yes.
Once this crazy man came to Jairambati and was making importunate demands and would not leave her alone. So she finally began to chase him. And she said, I took one of my terrible forms and pressed my knee on his chest. And later he regained his sanity.
I guess
she took the form. If you want to look up the form, look up the form she took was Bagala, Bagala, Bagala. It's really quite. It scared the living daylights out of this man, of course. Suddenly it wasn't Holy Mother. On the other hand, there was I forget the name of the Swami. It may yet be related in this book, this story. When Mother was quite old, right at the end of her life, this Swami was massaging her feet with oil. And he was thinking to himself, oh, poor Mother, she's come to this, the goddess of the universe has come to this old age, and her feet are wrinkled and so on. And then something happened, and this light began to fill the room. And he looked down to where he was rubbing the oil on her feet, and they were the feet of a beautiful young woman. And he looked up, And the mother had transformed into this beautiful young goddess. And he was, of course, he lost outer consciousness. And when he came back to himself, the mother was as she had been before. And she said to him, "Did something happen, my son?" She knew perfectly well what had happened. So, she was capable of being playful as well as outraged. She is, as Holy Mother said, when the divine person, the divine being, takes human form, they are liable for all of the good and bad aspects of being a human being. All of the ailments, all of the miseries, all of the, both sides of the ledger are there. The credits and the debits of being a human being are experienced by the divine person when they take human form, which is why it says in Breaker of This World's Chain about Thakur, "How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age." Why? To unchain us and set us free. So they take this, they experience this austerity of human form in order to set us free.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. That is reassuring and consoling, because it is very difficult not to get frustrated when we get pushed sometimes.
Oh, yes.
And when we are on the spiritual path, we are trying not to let let things get to you, but it's just very difficult sometimes, and then there's that remorse.
There should be no remorse, dear. There should be no remorse. You simply say to yourself, well, what's done is done. I learn from it what I can. I try to see what it was in this situation that really pulled my trigger. But no remorse, as Swami Swahananda would say to us when we expressed any kind of, just what you said, remorse or anguish or something about what had happened. He'd say, what is done is done. Go forward. And now you would make that gesture. Go forward. With the closed fist. Go forward. Powerful. Very powerful when he made that gesture. So we must not be remorseful. It just, anything that makes us feel bad or small. As Swami Vivekananda said, contraction is death. Expansion is life. So we expand ourselves by learning from what happened, but no remorse, no ill feeling about ourselves.
Thank you, Brother Shankar.
And thank you, Swayam, for being so sincere and vulnerable. Anyone else?
So even I think I recall moments of hearing about how Sri
Aaron, you
Ramakrishna.
need to be closer to the computer when
Yes.
you're talking, because I just don't hear you.
So I think I remember some moments of Sri Ramakrishna also losing his temper, of like
Oh,
somebody
yes.
would be in like the room with him and he would tell them to leave and he would like shut the door.
Well, he said to Hridoy, I mean, this is one of the things that he said to Hridoy. When I am angry, you be quiet. When you're angry, I'll be quiet. He made that agreement with Hridoy. And yes, there were times when Sri Ramakrishna would lose his temper. He actually, one time, one of the other priests who was actually related to him, had told him something that wasn't so. And Thakur had gone to the Kali temple and asked her, "Is this so? What he said?" And the mother reassured him, no, that it was not so. It had to do with Sri Ramakrishna's mental state. And Sri Ramakrishna, the guy was doing worship at the time in the Radhakanta temple. And Sri Ramakrishna ran in, climbed on his shoulders, banged him on his head and said, "You rascal, you rascal, you tried to, you misled me and I believed you, but mother set me straight, so fie on you." He was quite exercised, as they say. Anything else? Just this last sentence about her own birth mother. But she left, by that left the body, but she left with great joy, seeing me as mother, mother of the universe. So that's the end of chapter 25. How are we doing for time? Oh, good, we have time. Okay, the next chapter, 26, is Holy Mother as a Guru. Holy Mother as a Guru, a giver of spiritual instructions. And this is what's understood about that Guru relationship. Remembering always that Holy Mother was none other than Ishwar. There's Ishwari, the feminine, and Ishwara, the masculine. Thakur Ishwara, Mother Ishwari. But really, it is there is one being, genderless, Ishwar. So when Mother was acting as a guru, which means giving spiritual instructions, but beyond that, taking full responsibility. This is something that isn't sometimes known by people when they take Diksha. That whoever gives them Diksha is taking responsibility for their spiritual welfare, their spiritual growth, and their eventual liberation, no matter how long it takes. And the person who is acting as the guru, that is giving the Diksha, that jiva, which may become jivan mukta, jivan mukti, jivan mukta. They may become free in the sense of becoming illumined, but they will not take liberation. They will continue to take human birth until everyone they have given Diksha to has freed themselves from the necessity for taking on a human body. So whoever gave you Diksha, that is their pledge to you. And so if you feel a gentle nudge from time to time to get on with it, that's perhaps the reason why. Any comments or questions about what was just said? Okay.
What do you mean, what do you mean a gentle nudge? Or what does the Swami you think mean?
Well, no, I wasn't saying the Swami. The Swami, a Swami that gives you Diksha has made that pledge. And a gentle nudge will be just something that you feel from inside. That, you know, this kind of divine discontent increases in you for no reason that you can lay your finger to. This feeling that, oh, I'd better get with it. I'd better not dilly-dally. And that comes in many forms. Good question, Aaron. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anything about this business about the guru, chela, the teacher-student relationship? Okay. Holy Mother as a guru. I bow to the divine guru who imparts to the disciple the fire of self-knowledge and burns away the bonds of karma accumulated through many births. This is what the guru does for us. I first encountered this in people talking about Swami Prabhavananda and what happened when he accepted them as disciples. And the statement was made by someone who could be believed. Hundreds, if not thousands, of lifetimes have been removed from your future. I bow to the divine guru who imparts to the disciple the fire of self-knowledge and burns away the bonds of karma accumulated through many births. It is extremely important to understand the concept of the guru and his or her role in awakening spiritual consciousness. Now, this is Chetanananda speaking. It is extremely important to understand the concept of the guru and his or her role in awakening spiritual consciousness. According to the Vishwara Tantra, guru means gu means darkness or ignorance, and ru means remover or discoverer or uncoverer. According to that tantra, gu means darkness or ignorance, and ru means remover or discoverer. In other words, the person who removes ignorance or the veil of Maya from the minds of the disciples is a guru. Human beings suffer because of their ignorance, and this ignorance can be banished. Human beings suffer because of ignorance, and this ignorance can be banished only by the knowledge of God. I'm going to repeat that. Human beings suffer. We suffer because of ignorance, and this ignorance can be banished only by the knowledge of God. Vedanta says that people are hypnotized by Maya. They must learn to dehypnotize themselves with self-knowledge, which leads to liberation. Ramakrishna described the role of a guru with this parable. Once a tigress attacked a flock of goats. As she sprang on her prey, she gave birth to a cub and died. The cub grew up in the company of the goats. The goats ate grass, and the cub followed their example. They bleated, the cub bleated also. Gradually, it grew to be a big tiger. One day, another tiger attacked the same flock. It was amazed to see this grass-eating tiger running after it. The wild tiger at last seized it, whereupon the grass-eating tiger began to bleat. The wild tiger dragged it to the water and said, "Look at your face reflected in this water. It is just like mine. Here is a little meat, eat it." Saying this, it thrust some meat into the grass-eating tiger's mouth. But the grass-eating tiger would not swallow it and began to bleat again. Gradually, however, it got the taste for blood and began to relish the meat. Then the wild tiger said, "Now you see, there is no difference between you and me. Come along and follow me into the forest." So that's Sri Ramakrishna's parable. Is there any comment or question about that parable and about its relationship to each of us?
It's a great story, Brother Shankara. I tell my grandchildren all the time. Now they know it by heart. As soon as I say the goats and the tiger, they just tell the whole story. And we talk about how we learn things when we're growing, depending on our surroundings that we grow up with, whether it's parents, caretakers. We always discuss about it at the dining table. It's a wonderful story to remember how we learn certain things in life.
Yes. And how we learn to eat grass and bleat.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good point,
Thank you for
Maharaj.
giving that to your grandchildren. Someone else was speaking.
Oh, I said very good point, Maji.
Yes, very good point indeed. Anyone else? Any comment about this story of the goats and the... Now, is there anything wrong with the goats? No, there's nothing wrong with the goats.
Right.
The goats are just simply being goats.
Right.
And they raised the little tiger.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with the goats. But they're not a tiger.
And similarly, Brother Shankara, research has proved that if you take a child from a dysfunctional family and put him in a healthy, way young, those kids turn around to be different. If they have a positive environment, they turn into a better human beings later on.
Yes.
That has been proven very much in science.
Indeed. That particular point is made very early in Swami Ranganathananda's book, Divine Grace.
Okay.
That a child who has been developing a dysfunctional personality because of the situation in which they're growing.
Yes.
If they're removed from that and given something else, they can change quickly.
Exactly.
And Jill Bolte Taylor, bless her, she has a new book. And the book is about neurogenesis, neuroplasticity. In other words, we can grow new brain cells, and the brain cells that we have can adapt themselves to new situations and be more than they were. And something called the 90-second rule. I won't go into it, but if you want to just look up, just Google Jill Bolte Taylor, and you'll find she has this new. Or you can just put Jill Bolte Taylor, the 90-second rule, and the little video and website will come up.
And also, I want to make just one point. Just like the tiger who started eating meat later on, we human beings also can retrain our brains later on at a later age also. It can.
This is exactly what I was saying, that Jill Bolte Taylor,
yes.
bless her heart, has written a book that details just exactly how we are never prisoners of what we were. And she makes the same points that Vivekananda makes, but she just makes them from the point of a neuroanatomist rather than Vivekananda. Just like in her earlier book, My Stroke of Insight, she made the same points, not knowing one word of it. She made the same points that Patanjali makes about how we can change by learning that there is a different aspect to us, this right mind personality, as she says, and learning to identify with that and see what goes on in the left mind as the word, of course, in Sanskrit is samskaras. As a neuroanatomist, she calls them neural loops, and how they are not definitive and not determinative. They are simply something that exists in our left mind, and we can choose to cooperate or not. And when I first read that book, I was just literally hopping up and down, saying, my God, she's saying the same things that Patanjali said, but she's saying them in a way that can't be argued, that people argue with Patanjali, oh, that's not possible. Well, she proved, didn't intend to. She didn't intend to have a massive left brain hemorrhage that left her without a left mind function at all. But her 8-year recovery from that is the substance of that book. So that's a name that I can suggest to every one of us, Jill Bolte Taylor.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
What's the title of her second book? The other.
I think the title is the 90-second rule, but I wouldn't swear to it. But if you just Google Jill Bolte Taylor 90-second rule, this little website that they've established will come up, and you can play her video where she explains about neurogenesis and neuroplasticity and the 90-second rule. And I haven't gotten her book and read it yet, but I will. You may count on it, mother willing.
Okay, thank you. I think Bart just put the title to Whole Brain Living.
Whole Brain Living. Thank you, Bart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can follow her on Facebook as well. She posts a lot on there, and so it's interesting. She's just mentioning her new book.
Thank you for that, Bart. Okay. Well, it's almost 9 o'clock. It's 8:59. Any last thought or comment or question from anyone?
Brother Shankar, this is Katrina.
Hello, Katrina.
Hi. In terms of a guru, does the guru seek you, or do you seek a guru?
the understanding is that the guru draws you to herself or himself when the desire grows in you to have a guru.
Okay.
I can speak now from my own experience, which is proof of this. I had started studying, we can say, Eastern spirituality in 1967 as a result of what the Beatles became after they encountered the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. It was very compelling to me. I'd followed their work right along and was an admirer of the Beatles. And their work changed so dramatically. The real watershed was their album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So I began to study on my own. First, I took the Maharishi's mantra, and it worked. It was a good, it gave me that sense of the living presence. But I wasn't satisfied with the Maharishi's organization. It seemed more interested in growth than it did the people who were following their instructions. So 1967, 6 years passed, 5.5 years passed as I studied on my own, looked into different organizations and so on, had gotten a good job and had moved to Los Angeles from Seal Beach, California, and was every evening going to this little building behind the house that Marjorie and I had rented. And one of the things that I was doing was praying for a teacher. To cut to the chase, Swami Prabhavananda, through his disciple Ilyana, a woman, and not someone that I knew. She was known to my brother. She began to say, "You have to meet Swami Prabhavananda." Well, he was drawing me to him through her, answering my prayer. So in February of 1973, and I'll tell you the rest of the story person to person, Katrina, if you want to hear it. But the guru draws us to herself or himself as our unrelenting desire to have a teacher is there. Thanks for that question. It's a very good question.
Thank you. And one other question. May I have that copy of the poem you shared with us last night that you sent to June? You know.
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have your email, so I can send it to you easily.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a short poem, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Brother, I would like a copy of it as well. This is Akash.
Okay. So you shall have it.
Thank you.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Swayam.
I would like to quickly share how I was drawn to our center and taking initiation from Swami Sarada Devi.
Delighted.
Similarly, Naveen and I, we had been part of many different temples, although we never actually were part of an organization or a philosophy, but more like bhakti and temples. And we were attending class lectures at the Self-Realization Fellowship and other places. And one day, Krishna Kali invited me to the Vedanta Center because she had attended the 4th of July function and she said, it's a wonderful group of people. Would you like to come for the Sunday talk? And I didn't know anything much about the center. And I asked her, is there like a specific talk? And then I went on the website, looked up the title of the talk. And I was actually supposed to go to the other temple for their Sunday program. But then something drew me, the title of I said, let me go try this. I can always go to the other temple next week. And so I came with Krishna Kali, and the talk was Satyagraha, insistence on the truth. And within about 10 minutes, I was so drawn. It was your talk, Brother Shankara. And then there were a couple of visiting Swamis. And within, I think, 3 weeks, I had decided this was the place. And then, of course, Naveen joined me. And it did not take us long at all to decide that we wanted to get initiated. So I feel like I was drawn to that. I mean, I had been searching as well. But by God's grace, I was drawn.
Notice there is almost always, in my experience, not only my own, but in many others, there's always some intermediary. In your case, it was Krishna Kali saying, well, you may be interested in this. You know, I was so hard-headed, and I mean this, I was so hard-headed. I'd had a bad experience, so to speak, with some group of people called Swamis in another organization. So when Ilyana said, oh, you must come and meet Swami Prabhavananda, I thought, oh, I don't, I don't know. I just didn't have it. She had to ask me 4 times. She asked me 4 times. Finally, on the 4th time, February of 1973, I accepted the invitation. And that morning, my life changed. Just like that. Just like that. I never looked back. I had met my guru. What I had been praying for had materialized in the marvelous form, and I do mean marvelous form, of Swami Prabhupada. Anything else, dears? This is sweet. So just to tie it off, Katrina and Akash want a copy of that tanka that was read last night. And anything else from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara, we don't have to meet the guru physically? Like, we could have a guru that is, like, even Christ, for example, he could be our guru.
Very
Like,
definitely that's the case. As an example, Swami Ashokananda, who headed the Vedanta Society of Northern California for over 30 years, was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. He became his disciple many years after Swami Vivekananda had left the body. He too was praying very intensely for guidance, and Swami Vivekananda came to him and said, all right, I'll give you that guidance. And so gave him not only guidance, but Diksha. And Ashokananda approached Belrumat, approached the Swamis at Belrumat, and told them what happened. And they meditated on the situation and came to the conclusion that Ashokananda was telling them the absolute truth. And so they accepted him as a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. And when the post of head of the Vedanta Society of Northern California came open, they sent him. He had since taken sannyas. they sent him to San Francisco. And he was a magnificent head of the Vedanta Society of Northern California. I think some of you have heard me tell this story. If you haven't, it's really funny. There were two other, when he came, there were two established swamis that were very well known in the United States. Swami Nikhilananda in New York and Swami Prabhavananda in Hollywood. And so Swami Ashokananda, pounding on the podium as was his wont, pounding on the podium said, "I do not lead you by love," as Swami Prabhavananda was said to lead his disciples. "I do not lead you by love. I do not lead you by philosophy," as Swami Nikhilananda was known to do with his disciples in New York. "I do not lead you by love. I do not lead you by philosophy. I lead you by psychology." And he meant it too. If you want to know what I mean by that, and this story was told to me, but it's also related, it was told to me by the author of this book, but it's related in the book, A Heart Poured Out, which is the biography of Swami Ashokananda, written by his disciple, Sister Gargi, or Marie Louise Burke, the one who wrote the New Discovery series about Swami Vivekananda's sojourns in America in the West. But she was Swami Ashokananda's disciple and wrote this wonderful biography called A Heart Poured Out. And that story is related there, but she also told me, acting it out as I did. Swami Ashokananda was also the one who, pounding on the podium, this was in the early 1950s after television had begun to become popular. And so pounding on the podium one Sunday morning, he said, "Don't tell me you don't have to, don't tell me you don't have time to meditate. You watch television." So he was magnificent, Ashokananda. He was John Dobson's guru. He was Swami Yogeshananda's teacher. He wasn't his guru. Yatishwarananda was Swami Yogeshananda's guru. But Ashokananda was his teacher, and Yogeshananda lived with him for a long while. Anything else, dears? All right. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amrutangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved Lord, lead us from this partial and fragmented understanding to full and perfect understanding. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. Go forward in the divine being's loving and protective embrace. So until tomorrow evening, for those of you who wish to join us, we'll study Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. Then Saturday, of course, from 11 to noon, Realizing God, a book of Swami Prabhupananda's talks. And then I hope you all attend this coming Sunday. You all attend the annual meeting of our congregation, which unfortunately, again, this year has to happen by Zoom. But Mother willing, this will be the last time that we have to do this, at least for some time. Because normally there's a very festive lunch afterwards. So if you want to know about what the annual meeting is about, I won't go into it, but you can find it out on the website and in the newsletter and so on, and on Facebook, our Facebook page. And Bart, thank you very much for telling us about Jill Bolte Taylor's, the title of the book, and the fact that she's posting on Facebook.
Yes. Also on YouTube, there is a wonderful TED Talk about her first book. Is from about 13 years ago. My Stroke.
Yeah.
Revenge.
Oh yeah. That's a humdinger.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks everyone for sharing.